Welcome to Side Alpha Leadership, a podcast where leaders can share their experiences and discuss what leadership means to them. I'm your host, David Polikoff. Hello and welcome to Side Alpha Leadership. I'm your host, David Polikoff. I am on the phone again for an interview with Dave Braun. This is the third and final part of a three-part podcast that Dave's been telling his story from his time in the Marines into we're going to end up where he is now. Where we last left off was Dave and his Marines were being interrogated for something that they thought happened that didn't happen, and they ended up letting him go, and they were on their way back to their to the FOB, which I believe is Forward Operation Base. Dave, if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but and they had gotten ambushed. So again, Dave, welcome back to the show for part 3.
Thanks for having me. Go ahead and we'll wrap this up. I know it's been a long one, so I appreciate you providing the platform. And yeah, if you're good with it, I'll just go ahead and I'll start right at the end of that ambush.
Yeah, I think just to put everything back into context, it's an interesting story, and I know that you've actually had people say that they've listened to both parts and want to know when part 3 is coming out because it's really an interesting story. So, Dave, go ahead and start where we left off, and we'll move forward.
Yep. So, and you are correct. FOB does stand for Forward Operating Base. And I think I explained this last time, but it's just basically a smaller base punched off of the main base, usually like a mile or two away. But so we got caught up in that ambush, and I know I'd gone over some specifics at the end of the last podcast, but that was kind of the culminating event of that particular deployment. Without getting too much into details or specifics, we ended up spending the majority of the rest of that deployment basically sidelined. Occasionally we got to go out for a few major events, but for the most part, they weren't really sure how to proceed. And that really, as far as my overall experience up until that point, I was really comfortable with where I was at. And in my mind, I thought, this is what I'm going to do for the next 14 to 15 years. And once I saw that happen, it kind of left everything up in smoke. And while I wasn't the one per se under the microscope, at least as much as Gloria was, I was getting a front row seat to seeing how these politics kind of came into the operational aspect, and how when that did happen, unfortunately you get to see who the really good leaders are and the ones that stick by you, but you also get to see the ones that kind of are willing to throw you under the bus or step on you to get to where they want to go. So we had gotten home, and it kind of this particular case, and I don't want to go too much into it just because that would probably take up another 3 hours. But this particular case, it had become very, very popular. I believe he was the first Marine or in general, serviceman in general, who had a capital crime charge since combat operations began in Iraq. So it had a lot of eyes on it. And as I said in the last podcast, the story they were trying to paint and the story that was true was two different things. And by all means, if any listeners out there are interested in the story, they can look up Ilario Pontano. They can see the books he wrote about it, and it really goes into depth into his particular situation. But so he ended up beating the charge. They found out that the charges weren't exactly as black and white as the individual who brought him against him were making him out to be. So once that happened, I think in the Marine Corps' eyes, they were like, well, let's just kind of just make this all go away and put everything back to normal. And for me, for someone who was expecting to make a career out of it, I was really uncertain about where I was going to go with my future. So there was another deployment that was scheduled. And then beyond that, I was coming to the end of my extension. I had actually extended to stay a little bit longer just because I wanted to participate in that deployment. So It was right around this time I started speaking with my wife about the possibility about getting out. And any family that's been through, whether it's 4 years or 20 years in the military, specifically during this time, the deployment cycles they were horrendous. They weren't giving people the recovery periods and the rest periods. They were just basically bringing them home, dusting them off, and sending them right back over. We now know that's not the way to do it, and that's kind of where a lot of the issues started to develop. But I had spoken with her, and I had told her that I was considering getting out, and she was all for it. And I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. I know that for my particular occupation, a lot of people, they get out and there were these contracting opportunities, which to me, it was just more of the same thing. The problem is the pay. As an E5 in the Marine Corps, you're only making like $30,000, $40,000 a year, but you're also getting the benefits. So to see someone come up to you and offer you a 6-figure salary for doing the same thing that you were doing before, it's tempting. But there's also the dark side of that, which is you're not a part of the U.S. military anymore. You're basically just what it sounds like, a mercenary. So I knew that wasn't the path I wanted to take. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if I'm going to do something like that, I might as well stay in. So when you're exiting the service, or when you're considering exiting the service, there's classes they make you attend. Each branch has a different name for them, but it's basically like a transition class. And I was in one of these classes, and I had met a captain from Montgomery County Fire Rescue. At the time, this would have been 2007, 2008. I believe the department had like a very, very small military recruit, and it was essentially just 2 people. And from my understanding, they were just going from base to base. And this particular individual, Captain Moody, he was a Marine, Vietnam era Marine, actually. So I think he kind of gravitated towards Marine bases. But I had spoken with him, and he had talked to me a little bit about being a firefighter. And it was kind of like a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, and not to, people are going to kind of take this a bad way, not to take anything away from being law enforcement. I knew law enforcement was not a career for me. I think it's extremely difficult to go from a job that I was doing in the environment I was doing it, and then come back home and do. Some people consider it similar, but I think it's not. And I think that's where a lot of the troubles start, as far as people who go from these combat environments to come back and get into these law enforcement communities. But I knew that wasn't something that I was interested in. That's something that I didn't feel I would be good at. So I thought about firefighter, and I'm like, man, like that sounds awesome. And I didn't know much about it other than just fighting fires. But to me, I'm like, this is something I'm really excited about. And now I've kind of started getting a little bit more serious about getting out. So I brought that up to my wife. She was a little apprehensive at first. I think when I approached her and did the, hey, I'm getting out, I'm sure in her mind it was like, well, he's probably going to do like a normal 9 to 5 and that'll be it. And then you present something like this, and we didn't know what the schedule was. To be honest with you, I thought you originally lived at the firehouse all week, and then you went home on the weekend. So I kind of prepared her for, hey, I'm going to be considering I'm going to be trying to be considered for employment, and I don't know what the schedule is going to be like, but the benefit is at least I'll be home. So at least I'll be close. So, and right around this time, my second child was born. She was actually born on base on Camp Lejeune. And once she was born, and I kind of had spoken with a lot of other people who were still serving, whose opinions I valued, I pretty much, okay, I'm 100% getting out. I'm going to become a firefighter. If I can't become a firefighter, I'm going to stay with the reserves for a little bit. So at least I have something to fall back on, because in my eyes, not knowing anything about, what it takes and what they're looking for and some of the qualities and characteristics. I wasn't sure if I would, if I would be able to be employed by a fire department. So I'd come home, and luckily right around the time I had come home on what we call terminal leave, which is just basically where we use up all our leave, Montgomery County had put out an application, or excuse me, an announcement for a class, and I had applied to it, and I had gone through the application process, and I got selected for the recruit class, and I was like, I was set. I was like, this is it. This is where I'm going to rest my head. And from the moment, I mean, I don't want to say from the moment I got to recruit school, but it almost was like from the moment I got to recruit school and I saw what the job was about and, what it entailed and what we were doing. I mean, I loved it all. I loved every minute of it. I knew that this was my calling, that this was what I was meant to do. It just took me a little bit to find it.
Let me ask you a question. What recruit class were you in?
31.
And what year was that?
2008, 2007, 2008.
So now for the big question: Was I one of your instructors?
You sure were.
Was I an asshole? Was I an asshole to you?
No. So I don't look.
Hey, look, I don't work there anymore, so you can say whatever. But I always gravitated towards the guys that are out of the military because I always viewed them as having that discipline. It didn't matter how old they were. So I was just curious, looking at me through recruit eyes. I know I didn't yell at anybody. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't a jerk to you.
Well, I mean, you were a fire service instructor, and I expected, that is how I was used to learning. That was how I was used to developing. I understood the purpose of it and that's the one. I like to tell people that the similarities between my military career and my fire service career, I mean, I tell them all the time, all I did was I traded a green uniform for a blue uniform. The similarities are, it was so easy to transition from, being in the military to being in the fire service because, again, it's, you're going from an environment where there's a chain of command to another environment where there's a chain of command. You're going to an environment where, the instruction, the training, the expectation, the type of people. And this was a big thing. One thing I loved about the military was the type of people that I got to be around. And I always tell people this, and I have never considered myself to be extraordinary. I don't even consider myself to be above average, but I always tell people I know the secret to these jobs like the military and the fire service, and that you don't have to be the above average person. You just got to find the above average person and keep yourself around them. And eventually you won't have no choice but to get up to their level. And that is I don't want to say it's a secret to life, but in our profession, in the military, that is the secret. And I've seen it work over and over and over again. And in every aspect of my fire service career, it has benefited me. Even when once I get to some of the struggles that I encountered later on down the road, that was always the one thing that I could count on was the people that I surrounded myself with. They were exactly who I thought they were, and they are all over this organization. They are all over this profession. And I knew it then, even as a young, transitioning from the Marine Corps to the fire service, I knew it then, and I still know it today, that is what I'm here for, and that is what has gotten me to where I'm at today.
Well, fair enough. I'll let you move forward in your story, but I was just curious, you're gonna because I ran my first fire with you. Okay.
So I ran my first fire with you. So no, you were a fire service instructor, which I say that as working up there now. You guys have 6 months to compress an insane amount of knowledge into these recruits, these future firefighters who the following day are going to go out there and do that job for real. In the military, I was in the combat era, so I had one deployment and then it was straight to combat. But with the military, it's like the actual job, doing combat, that's not guaranteed. And with the fire service, with the police, that is guaranteed. You are going to run a fire. You are going to encounter these crazy EMS calls. So you have to prepare people for it. And it's a balance. So I mean, as you well know, there's never enough time. We never have enough time with the recruits. We never have enough, lengthwise, day-wise, you name it. It's always trying to, I mean, I don't want to, a golf ball through a garden hose, I guess. It's a lot of knowledge. So you were exactly what I thought a fire service instructor was. Some people might say that that's an asshole, but that's how I learned. That's, I won't learn by someone, asking me nicely to do something. I learned by someone being stern and being, a command presence, like, hey, get this crap done, get it done right now, and move on to the next stage. Like, hey, roger that. I can do that.
All right, cool. So, fair enough. I won't interrupt you anymore. You keep moving forward then.
But I had, and again, I had some, that era, and obviously a lot of the people that I come up under have either, moved up into senior leadership positions or moved on. But we were spoiled with the people that we had, and it was awesome. And I at one point, I felt like I was having too much fun in recruit school. And again, a lot of this stuff was new to me. A lot of these people that go through these recruit schools, they've gone through Fire Essentials 2 or 3 times. They've seen it all. They've done it all. The first time I did a burn, it was such an eye-opening experience to me. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I loved it. And I just, every day, it was, even I know culturally we look at EMS like, oh, it's not as much fun because we do it all the time. But look, in the military, our medics, that's our smartest group right there. And I know I'm going to catch hell for saying this, but it's just, again, it's trying to adapt to the culture and all of that stuff. Like, I was there for it. I loved it. I was really happy to be there. And I was just so excited to get that opportunity. And I don't want to spend too much, I don't want to, but I remember being on that bus after we did the CPAT, and there was like 50 people on this bus, and we were going to tour the academy. And I remember talking to all these people, and a lot of the people that were on this bus had spent the last 6-7 years, had spent the entirety of their adult life trying to get hired by any fire department. They didn't care where. They didn't care if they had 50 people, 500 or 5,000. They just wanted to get paid to be a firefighter. And no other job on this earth do we have, do we attract people like that? We just, it's there. They are so focused and determined. And it was almost, to me, I was like, oh my God, like, this person has been doing this job for free for the past 10 years. Like, I don't stand a shot in hell. And I respected that, and I appreciated that. And that's always been in the back of my head that, I mean, it's, we get to do it, so we talk trash about it, but I am one of the, hey, it's the best job in the world. And I couldn't see myself doing anything else. So, my recruit class, I mean, it was fun. I had fun. I had some great recruits. I had a lot of in-county people who were in-county volunteers who kind of took me under their wing and taught me the lingo and helped catch me up, because I was a little bit behind. A lot of people, I didn't know what a box alarm was the first time. Like, why do they call it a box alarm? And I had to get it explained to me. And of course, people are looking at me like I'm ridiculous. And, I mean, hell, the first time I saw a tiller truck, I was just blown away that there's a truck that bends in the middle. And I've jumped out of moving helicopters. So it's not like I've lived a quiet life, but no, I was all for it. So out of recruit school, I get assigned to a firehouse downtown, one of the busier, actually one of the top 5 busiest firehouses in the county, and we've got some busy firehouses. And even as a recruit, I absolutely loved it. It was just everything about it. Every single step was incredible to me. Actually, before I got out of the academy, we got our day where we go out into the field and we get to spend time in a firehouse. And as you know, it's the way they do it is the medics go to the firehouse and they'll ride the engines, and the guys who already have their EMT, they'll ride the medic unit. And then the one who has nothing is on the ambulance. And I was the one that had nothing. And I come to Station 3 and I meet this guy, Captain Polikoff, and he tells me that the ambulance it was Thanksgiving Day. And he told me that the ambulance they were doing something else. So you told me to put my stuff on the truck. And I'll be honest, I thought it was a firehouse prank. I thought that as soon as I put my stuff on the truck, you were going to scream at me and, "What are you doing, idiot? Get your stuff on that ambulance. It's out back." And it was for 3, it was a slow day. And I don't know if you recall this or not, but we were supposed to leave because we were only there till 5:00. We were supposed to leave at 4:45 because they didn't, or I'm sorry, 4:30 because they didn't want to. They didn't want us, and this is the common thing in recruit classes. They don't want us getting stuck on the call and running overtime. And since you're gone, I can now say this, but I don't think you would get hemmed up for it. But you had said, you're like, "Hey, you can leave if you want, but I'm telling you right now, as soon as you walk out that door, something's going to happen." And the other 2 guys that were with me, and one of them's still on the job to this day, and I still give him crap about this. He was like, "All right, well, I'm getting out of here." And again, I'm thinking like, this is a test. I am not leaving until that clock says 5:00. I'm not going anywhere. And it was like, it felt like it was like at 4:58, these tones go off and everybody starts running. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And as you're running by me, "Come on, Rook, get your shit." And I'm like, "All right." I come running behind you. And of course because I'm not as experienced. I'm the last one to get on the truck and everyone's yelling at me to get on. And first time in a fire truck, first time going to a call, can see a column in the distance, kick the lights and sirens on. And again, I've got to do a lot of really, really cool stuff in my lifetime. But at that moment, that was just like, man, this is everything. This is absolutely awesome. And I am going to get paid to do this for the foreseeable future. And it was absolutely awesome. And you took me to my first fire. And it was an amazing experience and I'll never forget it. And I went home that night. It was Thanksgiving. So, I told everybody about it. And there was another guy in our family who's a cop downtown, and he wanted me to follow in his footsteps. And of course, he's cracking his jokes, and I'm like, "Man, you say whatever you want. You're not taking me off my cloud." I rode that cloud for the next probably till the end of recruit school. It was awesome.
How much work did we have? Obviously that was a while ago.
So it was an end of the road townhome. They had fire on the 2nd and 3rd floor. And you actually, I don't know if you remember this. And again, since you're moved on now,
I'm retired, so it's all good.
So you yelled in the back. You said, "Does anybody have because we had red helmets as recruits." You yelled in the back and you said, "Is there an extra yellow?" Because 3's truck, there's a lot of people that would ride it. And you yelled in the back if there was an extra yellow helmet. And right away, I knew what you were getting at. And the individual who was in the back with us, who I'm not going to name him just because he's still on the job, he got tasked with staying outside with the driver and helping deploy ladders. So he reaches over, grabs my red helmet, pushes his yellow helmet towards me, and I went in the 2nd floor right behind you. And as we were walking up to the house, there were other recruits that were sitting there, because they're with the cot, they're doing their EMS time, and they see me and they're like pointing me out, and I'm like sitting there telling them to shut up because it's like just keep it down, and it was awesome, and everyone knew about it, and of course the lead instructor found out about it, and he had to mess with me for a little bit. The next time we went into class, he, made it seem like I had done some crazy illegal act and was going to get fired. And it was all a big joke, and they had a good laugh about it. But it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. It was awesome. It wasn't a ton of work. We basically, by the time we got there, we were 2nd due truck, but we got there like right behind the 1st due truck. It wasn't a ton of work, but it was just an opportunity to see everything. Because up until that point, I had no idea what to expect of a real life fire. And I saw it, and it was awesome. It was awesome. Everything about it was awesome. Going inside, coming out, taking everything off and shooting the shit with everybody. It was just, I was like, this is incredible.
So you go back to the academy, you graduate, recruit class, obviously, because you're still in the
Yep.
job, and so then where do we go after that?
So from there, we go downtown, Station 1, which is one of our busier stations. And at the time, there was a truck company there. There was a tiller truck there, which I'm a huge, tiller trucks are. Everybody's got their thing, and tiller trucks have always been mine. And it was absolutely awesome. The firehouse was, and that's all day, all night, nonstop busy. And we had a great crew. And again, it was everything I thought it would be being a firefighter. It really was. The call types, the types of people that I would get to work with, the experience. I was spoiled. I had an amazing probation. I never felt like I was on probation. It was very the stuff that they expect of you. It's very, very, very easy. And someone like me coming from where I come from, all that stuff, I know, hey, be the first one there. Roger that. I can do that. Make sure everyone's got coffee, stuff to be done. Make sure it's done. And what we always talk about that stuff, but when a shift realizes that you are putting forth effort and you are making an effort to be a part of that shift, they will pour everything into you. And it was awesome. For 6 months, I was the sole focus of the shift. I don't think we had anybody driver training at the time. So it was incredible. And there was all these different things we got to do. We got the Metro down there, which is something that, depending on where you're at, you don't get a lot of experience with. Obviously a lot of EMS calls given the area, but I mean, my first night there was a double homicide, and it was I mean, I don't want to say the homicide was incredible, but the experience was this is awesome. I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. So, real fun, real had a blast during probation. So right after I came off probation, and one of the things I've kind of looking back and wondering where, things started to go downhill, because they did. I think that with me, and I think a lot of other people have this too, where you're always busy, you're always doing something. And I honestly, I can't remember when I'm looking at that time period from, coming off probation, all the way back to my time in the service, there was never any long-term downtime. There was always something going on. I mean, as much as I say I enjoy probation, our probation process, it's a lengthy process. There's a lot to do. And I tell people all the time, just expect to not have any time, because you're going to be constantly busy with the expectations. And so right around this time, I had been going up north, up in Pennsylvania. One of the guys that I served with, Chris Johnson, he was, at the time when I first got out, he was struggling a lot. He was an amputee, and he wanted nothing more than to stay in the Marine Corps. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life is when I got back from one of my deployments, he was in the process of getting pushed out of the Marine Corps. And nowadays you find people who have, who are double amputees, who are active in special forces outfits. It's not uncommon for amputees to find a place in the military, but early 2003, 2004, it was not allowed. And I remember I sat in our first sergeant's office and watched him cry. One of the toughest guys I've ever seen, watched him cry, because I think it finally hit him that they were not allowing him to stay in the Marine Corps. That's all he wanted. So obviously him getting out, there was a lot of issues, and it sucked for all of us, because you want to see the people you're with, you want to see them win. You always want to see your group succeed, and knowing who he was and knowing what he was capable of, and watching him, it was hard. So, and he lived close to me. So constantly going up and trying to spend as much time to him. And he started to turn things around right around the time I got hired by the county. He started to find purpose, found a good woman he was like real serious about marrying her, and was just doing a lot with other vets. You know, he kind of found a place amongst that, working with people who had gotten out, been in similar situations. And so right around the time when I came off probation, I had found out that he had gone missing on the Susquehanna. And first and foremost, I got to give, so my department, our department, I tried to kind of keep this low key. I was basically going up to PA on my off days and trying to search for him. And as you well know, we've got a lot of people who work for volunteer organizations across the border up in PA. And a couple people had found out that I had a relation with him, and Montgomery County, my leadership got involved, and they basically came to me and were like, what can we do to help? And again, it was a good, they wanted to take care of me. And so he wanted to be buried in Arlington. And one of the things about Arlington at the time was, and I don't know the full story, but they won't bury you in Arlington without a body, period. Because I guess they're worried that, what if he just, ran away? What if he really wasn't missing? And to make a long story short, it was actually another guy on the job that on our department who ended up finding him. Obviously, he had obviously perished. He had fallen. We think he was out on the Susquehanna and he was fishing and he had fallen in, and we think it was just an accidental drowning. His dog was out on the boat with him, and he certainly wouldn't have done anything malicious with that dog out with him. And it's just he was on his way up. So that hurt. That really, really, really hurt. And I think for me, and I know people have this problem in general, is we're really good at compartmentalizing stuff. We're really good at something happens at work and we keep it at work and we say, well, the only time I think about this stuff is when I'm at work, because it's like I live two different lives. That's such a common thing amongst firefighters or military or police. It's like I live two different lives. I go to work and I'm one person and I come home and I'm another. And I think a reason why we do that is we're really good at compartmentalizing because of the stuff that we deal with. So for me, looking back on it, I think this is kind of the start where I started to have some problems, and my behavior started to change, and I started getting a little bit more time at home. And again, I was still very much in love with the job and loved what I was doing. And it seemed like at one point that was the only place I was finding solace, was that job. And right around this time, this would have been, I think, 2010 or so, I was going to the VA, and like anybody, our job takes a toll on our bodies. And it's like a running joke out there that, don't take any x-rays or any MRIs of a firefighter or a Marine or anybody who does jobs like we do, just because what we're going to find, right? We've all damaged our body, and it's a price we pay. And I think most of us gladly pay it, but it comes at a cost. And around this time I was having some back issues, and I'd gone to the doctor. And again, it's your mind is kind of in disarray, and you're trying to, for me, it felt like I was just, at this point, just going day to day. And it's like, well, I could go to work and I'm good at work, but I'd come home and things just felt like they were falling apart. And it wasn't like a normal falling apart, just because I knew in my head that the way that I was feeling and the way that I was dealing with things, it wasn't right. Going out and going to bars, and I don't want to get, for the first incident, I can't get too much into it, but there was a specific incident where we were out and a big fight broke out and things went a little bit too far. And that was kind of my first, where other people had come to me and like, hey, something's going on, whether you want to see it or not. And in my head, I'm like, dude, I don't know what, no, man, no, I've been through it. I've seen it. I've come out on the other side. I'm good. We were talking, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years. So for me, I thought, well, if something major was going to happen, it happened as soon as I got out. If I was going to start having issues with my mental stability, it happened as soon as I got out. But that's not how it happens. That's not how it works. So, so I had a back injury, and around this time, doctor was like, all right, well, here's some Percocets. They'll help you feel a little bit better. And I should have known then that you take this pill and it's like instantly your mood changes. Instantly, everything's okay. You're happy. You're content with everything. Nothing bothers you. You could take one of these pills and someone could tell you that, hey, your house just burned down. It's like, oh, well, I'm okay. I'm good. So I think at first it was just more or less for a pain management, just, trying to control the flare ups and stuff like that. But then in my head, I started feeling worse and worse. And it's like, well, I can take some more of these pills and feel a little bit better. And then I think that I still wasn't aware of how bad it had gotten. So I go and I try talking to someone and I'm not being upfront with them and I'm not telling them about the pills. And they're like, well, you've got a history of bipolar, you've got a history of ADHD. So we're going to put you on this other medicine. And it had caused this storm in my head where I felt like I was just drowning further and further. And I think it went on for like a year, 2 years. And then it had gotten to the point where in my head, I had almost like resigned to, you know what, I can't get out of this. I can't tell anybody what's going on. I'm hooked on these pills. If I don't take them, I feel awful. I have to go to work. If I tell somebody what's going on, everything's going to get taken away. Nobody's going to look at me the same. And I'll tell you, I didn't like, and I think this is, well, I know from talking with people that this is something that's extremely common, that we are, we're not so much concerned with the professional fallout. We're more or less concerned with, how people are going to perceive us or how they're going to look at us once they find these things out, which, realistically, that should be the furthest thing from our mind because that's the least impactful as far as our lives go. But it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't even feel like waking up anymore. I'm going through the motions and everything's kind of burning around me and there's no escape. And so it had all kind of come to a head and again, I kind of have to be, I have to be careful about what I talk about, but I think a lot of people who know me know exactly what happened, but the people that were around me, they had known that something was going on. And I know, having gone through this on the other side myself, that it's not as black and white as people make this stuff out to be. When someone has a problem, and I'm not trying to single or say, it was PTSD that caused my issue, or it was I think it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. We get to a point where we feel like we can't reach out and we can't ask for help. And it doesn't matter what caused it, because that's not going to go away. Whether it's something that happened in the past, whether it's something that's going on presently, it doesn't matter. That's not going to change. But what should change, what needs to change, is you can't handle it by yourself. I could have never crawled out of that hole by myself. No way, no how. I don't care. And I've gone over this 100 different times in my head. Had I not been surrounded by the people that I was surrounded by, you would not be talking to me right now. There would be probably some old dusty memorial page on Facebook sitting out there that's probably, 7 or 8 years old now. And that would have been the end of my story. And it's happened. It's happened a lot. And it's happened. It's literally torn a hole through our community. It's torn an absolute hole through the first responder, through the military community. And again, it's a lot of things that we're confronting, and it's okay to confront and experience those things, but it's how we get through them. So So again, I've got a lot of people around me. I have an incident where everything kind of comes to a head, and people find out, and at this point, again, I gotta kind of. So my employment was like, all right, well, something's going on with you, and you obviously can't work anymore. And in my head, this was the end. Like, this was it. I'm like, well, I just, like, I've lost it all, and there's no coming back, and nobody's going to look at me the same. And I mean, and I don't want to get down the whole, telling the story, but we all know when people get to these end of the road, so to speak, that, the only thing you're looking at is termination of life. It's like, well, I don't have any other options. Like, what good am I doing everybody? And it's in my head. It's not what other people think, but it's what I think. And other people that go through this, it's what they think, and it couldn't be further from the truth. So in my case, the people that were around me, they would not let me fall any further down that hole. They had kind of made a collective agreement that, well, we are the type of people that we are, where we're not just going to allow somebody to fade off into obscurity. We are going to continue to push him until he gets some help and gets himself to a place where he's better. And when I say that they wouldn't allow me to basically fade off, like, they would not allow me to fade off. I was almost like I wasn't making decisions anymore. And there was this moment, because I didn't want to, most people that are going through stuff like this, right? And it doesn't, and I've kind of been a little, I guess, lucid with, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter again, why you got there. When you get to this point where things are so bad, and you think that there's no help, and there's nowhere you can go, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it doesn't matter if it's pills. It doesn't matter if it's alcohol. It doesn't matter if it's not anything related to addiction at all. It doesn't matter. The thing is that it's not what you think it is. It's not going to end up how you think it is if you reach out. And I had gotten to a point where it's like, well, you know what? I've got two options. I can either toss my life and end it, or I can start listening to some of these people. And at first it was almost like, you know what? No one cares about me, but all right, man, I'll go and I'll talk to a counselor, and I'll get an evaluation, and all right, I'll go talk to, an addiction counselor, and I'll look at some of these, facilities, and I'll see, what the, what each one is, and what they can do for me, and how they can get me out of this rut. And it was almost like every day I just got a little bit, because I was literally, and I can't overemphasize this enough, I was being almost pushed by people who I knew who they are. They're just there. They won't let you fall down. And they just kept behind me, and they made it unequivocally clear that, we don't care about what had happened. We don't care about none of that. We just want you to get better. We just want you to be better. And it was like, one day turned into 2 days, 2 days turned into 4 days. And then I started kind of buying into some of the things I was being told, and they start to kind of identify, well, it's not as easy as just, you got addicted to pills, or you got, you're going through this, you're experiencing these events, and they're just tearing you up emotionally, and you don't know how, like, it's a combination of things. But it's okay, because it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. And there's ways that, and I was always told, like, look, we're not going to show you how to make it easier. We're going to show you that there's a way to get through it. There is a way to come out on the other side, and you will find happiness. And it took a while, but over time, I like, my whole mindset started to shift. And once I got all of that shit out of my system, I got like a real clarity of, all right, well, I'm not going back to that. I do not want to go back to that. And even if I wanted to, I've got people around me who I like, they've invested so much in me that and they wouldn't care if, if I did trip and like, it's that doesn't matter, but it's just, that's another piece of the puzzle. So at first, again, it was small steps and I eventually got to a position where I could come back to work. And I had spoken to a lot of people and I was very hesitant on how people would feel and how I would be perceived. And again, it's one of those things where it's, people are just happy. They want to see you win. They do. I'm not saying everything's, rainbows and sprinkles and sunshine, but most people, they don't want to watch you fail. They want to see you win. And if you try, if you give, again, give it a chance, you'd be surprised how it works out. So I come back to work and it's like, look, man, we're happy that you're back. We're happy that you're in a good place. We're going to keep you in this good place, but you're still the same person you were to us, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. We don't think any less of you. As a matter of fact, here's what I went through. And I can't tell you how many I get people that, hey, well, let me tell you what I went through. And let me tell you the situation that I'm dealing with. And let me tell you and it's like, wow, okay. It's, I'm really not, and it sounds so cliche. It sounds so effing cliche when it's like, oh, I'm not alone, but you're really not. So I had finally come back to work, and I don't. Again, I'm trying to not sound like every other person who's told a story where they're able to overcome hurdles like this, and I don't want to use the word overcome, but get on the other side of it. But again, it was like, okay, well, I'm good. I feel good. I feel like I can push through a lot of this stuff. I feel like I don't know, like I've got this whole renewed purpose. And so, I started very small. At first, I started trying to get back into the mindset that I was when I first got on this job, which is where I was really grateful to be here. And I wanted to contribute to those around. I wanted to contribute to the job itself. I wanted to contribute to the shift. I wanted to, pour into others what others had, pour into the next group, what others had poured into me. So I started making small steps and at first it was something like, hey, I'm going to expand my repertoire as far as like my capabilities in the job and what I'm going to do. And before I know it, and again, I got to kind of compact some of the story just because of where we got time. But before I know it, I had, I had 6 years of sobriety, and I was pretty high up on a promotional test, and I was about to get promoted. And I look at this, and it's like 6 years ago, I didn't know if I was going to be alive or dead, and because of the people that surrounded me, and because of the people that wouldn't quit on me and wouldn't give up on me. Here I am. I'm about to take a leadership position in a department that I'm not meeting any resistance. A lot of people are calling me up like, I'm so happy for you, and I'm proud of where you've gotten. And in my head, I'm like, oh man, everybody's going to be like, I don't want nothing to do with this dude. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. So over time, and obviously I did promote and again, I've been like, I love being here. I do. Every day has its moments, and it's again, I don't want to make it sound like everything has gone away, and it's just, I will say that it's a lot easier every day, and that I found that I've gotten to a place where I've been able to take the experience that I've gone through, and I've been able to identify other people that I think are in similar experiences. And, I'm not coming at you from a professional standpoint. I'm not coming at you with, a book or some get fixed quick scheme. But what I can tell you is, and with, hopefully, well, with the utmost humility, is I have been there. And I know how much it I don't want to, it effing sucks. It does. And I know what it feels like to feel like in your head, like you've got nowhere else to turn and no one else to, but that's not true. That's just not true. That's not. And obviously because for me, with my experience, and I can't say this enough, and I will say this until the day that I die, I am who I am because of those around me, because I had people who just, they bought into me, and they more or less laid down a path for me to walk and to mirror what they did, because that's what I wanted. I looked at, the people around me that I got to work with, and I said, I want to be like them. And it's, throughout my career, certain examples. Jason Smith, he's one that, right now I get to teach up the academy. And when I started doing that, when I start, and anyone who's gone through that process knows that it's extremely difficult to get checked off as an instructor. And at the time, this dude had so much crap going on at his station, but he literally put, for the most part, he put all of that on hold to sit down with me and just make sure that I had every tool I needed to succeed in order to get that certification. Sam Bellani, Matt Kalons, both of those guys, they throughout the class, they worked with me. They showed up every day and made sure that, I was doing what I needed to do. It's just people who really had no benefit whatsoever to taking their time and coming up there and spending time with me. And they did it, and they did it with a smile on their face. Jason was the first guy that got me checked off on a truck company. And I remember at the time he was going through something, and I don't want to put his business out there, but he had something kind of negative happen to him. And again, it's people, these people, they buy into you, and they you see them put their stuff off to the side and work towards making you better. And in my mind, that's all I want to do with other people. I want to give the same opportunities that were given to me. I'll never be able to do it as good as them. I know that. I won't, but I can try my hardest to mimic that, to mirror that. And hopefully I get close to it. It's I know I kind of skipped over, the like all the specific things in my career, but, and these are specific examples. It would take me 12 parts of your podcast to probably get through 5 years of my fire service career and everything that I've done and the people that helped me achieve that. You were a battalion chief, and you actually worked one of my classes when that's not a common thing. You took time out of your schedule to come down there and to help me. And I know that doesn't make a lot of sense without context, but just for anyone out there who's not familiar with our job for our organization, a lot of time when you start off, especially when you're in the teaching process and you start off teaching those classes, it's an individual effort. It's not something that, a lot of people necessarily are supposed to go out of their way to help you with, but it's when you see people, it's like they can't help themselves. They want to help you. They want to help you succeed. Those are the people that I look at, and I'm like, I'm so fortunate to be around these people, and they saved my life, unequivocally saved my life. So I feel like my whole life led up to this moment, because I didn't grow up in the fire service, but I was born to be a fucking fireman. I will tell you that right now. And I just point blank, I was born to be here. I was meant to be here, and every step I took got me here. My time in the Marine Corps, I loved it, but it got me here. It did. So it's, so for me, for my story, for my experience, that is, I got to do a lot. I was really fortunate in a lot of the stuff that I got to do. But like I said, that was being around, that was finding people who, I mean, everyone knows, who the rock stars are. And if you surround yourself with good people, it's just, you don't have no choice but to succeed. Same story, same scenario. Take those people out of that picture, I'm dead. But same story. Keep those people in the picture, and I don't know. It would have taken a lot to have like straight up failed with people like that on my back.
I think
it would have.
In the fire service, there's a couple of things. There's a bunch of things that, as firefighters, we kind of understand. We like to say we are a good judge of character, and we know, when you have time on, who the people that really are into the job or are good at the job and they want to succeed and they want to learn, and like-minded people are going to gravitate towards them. But having that support system in the fire service, knowing that you've got a bunch of guys that are into the job, this is what they want to do, and can be able to recognize if one of our brothers or sisters are hurting, we need to come to their aid. On the opposite end of that is the person that's hurting inside or feeling lost or feeling something's going on, but I don't know what it is, needs to understand or put their ego aside, or the humility, whatever it is, be humble and say, something's not right, I need some help. And if you're on a good shift and you've got that support system in place, they're going to go bend over backwards to help, as long as you're willing to do the work as well. You can't just have everybody else do the work. And you were one of those kind of guys that say, you know what, something's going on. Your guys recognize that because you have a good support system in place, and they pushed you into the direction, and then you did the work. And I think part of it is that I don't want to let these guys down. I don't want to let my family down. I don't want to let myself down, but I definitely don't want to let my guys down, because they are, there for me. They're in my corner cheering for me. So I'm going to do the best that I can do to better myself. So having that support system in place is important. Being able to be a good judge of character, and we know we can see somebody that wants to teach at the training academy, become a certified instructor. We know they're in it for the right reason. It's not a power thing. It's a I want to give back thing. It's a I want to train the next generation of firefighters that are coming up to take my spot. But I want them to be every bit as aggressive and smart as I need them to be. So when I leave, the job's left in good hands. And I think every single person in the fire service, military, police, that type of occupation, they're going to go through some downs. And the fact that you open yourself up a little bit and have the ability to ask for help, and have the ability to actually receive the help is what is going to get us over this hump of what we have in the fire service right now. And we know that addiction is a huge problem. Suicide is a huge problem. Hell, divorce in the runs rampant in the fire service, in the military, and in the police. And we need to make ourselves available to help one another, recognize that something's going on, and the fact that we do have good things. We have the Center for Excellence in Prince George's County that all firefighters can go to if they need the help. Things like that. We have a good behavioral health program in Montgomery County. We're just starting that in Frederick now. We just hired a behavioral health specialist in in Frederick County that is going to be there for the firefighters, because the things that we see and the things that we're tasked to do 24/7 at a moment's notice sometimes can be pretty horrific. But don't get me wrong, our job has its satisfactions. When we can go out and make a difference. So I know that you were the kind of guy, Dave. I saw that when you were at your lowest point, and I followed up on you with your lieutenant. Quite often, I'd pop into the station just to see how you were doing, because I recognized that there was something in you, not only from being in the military, but you were in for this job, and somewhere you got that disconnect, but you got it back again, and hopefully you're going to be sitting for the captain's test here pretty soon. If you're not, I'm going to be pretty pissed off.
Well, you hit the nail right on, everything. And again, it's just, and we could just go down such, it would, again, it would be like a 17-parter if we were to sort of follow these loopholes down. But you absolutely are what. So I have to be very, 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 because I got to a point where it's like, look, I'm ready. And I don't like to use the term surrender. It's a term that's commonly used. You have to surrender. I don't like that term just because I don't know. It's such a negative connotation, and maybe it's just the military in me, or it's just such a negative connotation. We surrender. You don't have to surrender to yourself. You have to come to a point where you are accepting that I can't fix this on my own. That's where it starts. You have to say that I can't fix this on my own. And I know that we've spoken about this before, and I really think that, and I'm so thankful you let me do, you allow me to talk about this now, because in the position that I'm in and everything that's going on in the world and everything that's going on, I mean, I see that there is so many people, and again, it's a lot of outside factors that are just affecting so many people. And I talk about this, and we have these conversations offline, but there are so many people out there that I know that they're hurting, and I can, and it's a very, very delicate subject, and it's, each and every person, it's different for each and every person. And I wanted, just another, hey, look, he's been through it too. And I'd end this with this, is that anybody, if you search David Braun on Facebook, Instagram, you'll find me. People from my department, anybody can reach out to me at any time, and I will go through everything, every step, all of it, all of the absolute, the goriest part, and the lowest lows and the highest highs, because I know, and we've all seen what happens when it doesn't work out. And it's so freaking tragic. It is. And for me, I can't say it's everybody, but I just really feel, knowing that a lot of people's experiences were similar to mine, that the things that we think are going to upend us and like, it's never too late. It is never too late to reach. And it sounds like an after school special for those old enough to remember those, but it's never too late to reach out, and you will be so surprised if you do that. And I know there's a lot of people out there struggling. I know and it doesn't have to be any one thing, but it's tough. It's some tough times out there, and our job is not getting any easier. And we've all got that mentality that, look, we're going to show up and we're going to do the job. And I did kind of keep that, and it's because that's ingrained in us. Like, no matter what, we got to run the call, we got to do the call. And it's tough when you're fighting your own mind, and it's difficult to kind of set, I don't know, it's difficult to find that line, but it's just, I wish that I could when I see it in these people that I talk to, I wish that I could convince them that, look, it's okay. It's okay. No matter what it is that you think that nobody else knows, it's okay. It's okay. Just reach out and do something, because, there's only two stories like mine. There's only two ways it goes. You either get over it or you die. There is no like, well, maybe he'll, half in, half out. Nope. You either get out or you die. And the people that I grew up with, and unfortunately, a lot of people that we grew up with, it sucks. It sucks to watch people go through this knowing that they didn't have to. They didn't have to. You didn't have to suffer through this. And I'm not trying to say that it was all the people. Or yes, you do have to have, that expectation of, I'm going to surrender. But at the same time, I'm telling you that those around you, they're not going to look down on you. They're not going to try to step on you. They're going to pick you up. They're going to pull you up. They're going to help you get where you need to be, to where, to where you're on the other side of this stuff, whatever it is. I use and again, it's just one, I've gotten to do so much stuff in my fire service career, so much awesome stuff. And the reason I got to do that stuff was the people around me putting their time in it. That is the best thing about the fire service, is every day you go in and I got someone above me or below me or next. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where they're at, but it's just, it's people making other people better. That's all we're trying to do every day, whether it's getting someone checked off on a rig, getting someone, checked off on a team, getting someone into a different house, getting someone it doesn't matter what it is. It's just, you're trying to elevate those around you. And that environment extends to your troubles too. It does. And you should lean into that. That is probably my only regret, is that I just wish I would have leaned into those guys sooner, because I would have saved them a lot of time. But it's, again, I could go on for literal hours of all this stuff that the people that have, surrounded me, enabled me to do. And now I'm at a point now where I can't believe even when I started on this job, I looked at officers and I'm like, man, I hope one day I, have that confidence to sit in that front seat and have a whole entire crew's responsibility rest on my shoulders. And it's a heavy, heavy load, but I've had all of you around me who have, shown me what you did to excel at that position. And just, yeah, I sat in on your promotional group that you do for everybody. Find me another job where somebody just takes time out of their day and sets up this elaborate group of, hey, this is how this is how these promotional tests are done, and this is how we look at incidents and this and that. And it's that nowhere else do they do that. We're so blessed with that. You don't go into Goldman Sachs and they say, hey, I'm going to hold a free workshop today on how to invest better or anything like that. They're trying to step on you. We don't have that. So that ties back into leadership. That ties back into the intent, the overall intent, at least in my opinion, of this podcast is it was all around me, and I was really fortunate. And I guess my cherry on the top of my podcast is I can't believe that I was fortunate enough to find people that put me in these positions and helped me get to these positions. Because I wasn't the one. I wasn't the one. I was a punk kid, and that's not where I'm at now. And I'm thankful for it. And I really hope that other people know that it's okay to fall. It's okay. Everyone's hurting. Everyone's struggling. Please, 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 just reach out to someone. Reach out to me. Reach out to anybody. And It doesn't have to be some professional. It doesn't have to be anything. Just talk. Just talk. Let's figure out what's what, and let's go from there. And not everything's going to be a victory. Not everything's going to be a win. But everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah, and how I'm going to end it is, this is a leadership podcast, so my challenge to the people that are listening to that, especially if you're an officer, if you're a line officer or a chief officer, you better be out there. You better know your people. You better know when their moods change, when their attitudes change, and you better be asking questions. I implore the chief officers, you need to get into the firehouse and you need to talk to your people. The captains have to come out of their offices. They need to engage with their people to take a pulse, to find out how everybody's doing, because this epidemic of suicide and drug addiction and alcohol addiction and things like that, we need to put it into that. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is to recognize it, confront it, and give the help that's needed. And I'm going to end it with that. But that's the challenge. So, be a leader in your organization. Get out there, know your people, and if they need help or you think they're hurting, get them the help that they need so they can be healthy. So with that, Dave, I appreciate the 3 parts to this. It's a fantastic story. I'm glad that you were, humble enough to be able to put it out there, to talk about, that you had some low spots, but you overcame. Again, I'm appreciative of you coming on here, and I know that the first 2, I can see the hits and the downloads that are coming, so I know the first 2 podcasts were very successful, and this one will be up tomorrow, which is Monday, and we're looking at May 2nd, so that'll be the 3rd and final. So Dave, thanks again for coming on the show, and be safe out there, and don't stop learning. Keep moving forward.
Thank you.
All right, man. So that concludes the show. So again, if anybody wants to reach out to Dave, you can easily find him on Instagram. You can always send me an email, sidealphaleadership@gmail.com, if you have any questions or anything about the show. But other than that, until next month, be safe.